Okay, so this is going to be a little bit of a video on macOS's Finder. So, if you're comfortable with macOS, you probably don't need this video. You can just close it out right now. But if this is your first time using macOS, or if you're not very familiar with the way that macOS works, you might need a little primer on how to use Finder. And I guess also if you just aren't familiar with the macOS file structure, it might be beneficial to know a little bit more about how the macOS file structure works. So first things first, we're going to open up Finder, and that's that smiley little guy over on the left side of the dock. When we click on it, okay, so the first thing that you see what I've previously described as just a couple of things that were thrown together on the left side, arbitrarily decided by somebody in the Mac design team. But there is some rhyme and reason behind it. It is your frequently used shortcuts. It is the things that you're more likely to want to use when you're in Finder. So, something like AirDrop, it's not actually a folder, but it's something that you're likely to want to know about when you're in Finder. Applications, this is a folder, but it's not necessarily structured in the same way that Windows structures itself. So, you can use this as a shortcut to use all of your different programs. Um, and I've got a lot because this is my personal device. Um, your downloads, your Mac HD. Mac HD is going to be one of the two important ones that we're going to take a look at right here. The other one is going to be your user directory, and of course that's my username. Not a work device, so this is my actual username. So the main window opens up with your recent files, and this is probably going to be the more likely files that you're looking for. And then on the left side, it's got all of the different locations as well as a couple of different tools. So um, we'll take a look at that in a second. But the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take a look at this bar on the top here where it's got name, kind, and date last opened. So kind right here allows you, if you click on it, it allows you to sort it by what type of file is being looked at. So because I'm in recent, I have a lot of files that I've opened up. It also shows date last opened. So if I wanted to sort by the last files that were open, I've got screenshots, I've got a GIF of some sort, and I've got a couple of HTML documents that I was working on. Um, I've got stand-ins for logos and actual logos and things like that. These are all files that I've opened recently. Um, but if I want to find a file that I may not have opened very recently, I'm going to have to go into the actual file system. And I can do that easiest by going to my username and then taking a look at the different folders that are in here. So right in here, I've got my downloads. That's going to be all of the files that I've downloaded. I haven't gone in here and cleaned this out in a while, so I probably should. But then I've also got um, my work documents folder, which I created myself. I've got my pictures folder, which is containing all of the different pictures that I've accumulated. My movies folder, this is one that I'm using a lot because I'm creating these videos for you guys. So whenever I save a movie, I move it into the movies folder, uh, or the movie is automatically set to be saved there. Um, and then over here, we have our documents folder, which is under the iCloud portion because these are backed up with iCloud. So a lot of these are, again, personal documents because we're moving house and we've got all that. But a lot of these are all documents that I want to make sure are saved not just on my computer, but also to the cloud. And technically, that still is within your user space. That's still technically a document that is under your username. And we can see that by going to Macintosh HD then going under users, and then looking at your own right here. So if you take a look at your own, your user account, it'll show you that there are um, many folders in here that you don't necessarily see. If I hold down, let's see, I think it's Command Shift period. There we go. Now we can see all these hidden files that are just hidden away, and they're not showing. Yeah, here we go. Desktop and documents. Although they're visible in a couple of different places, they're actually underneath your user account. They're just hidden away from your view. So even though it's showing up here, desktop and documents, they both show up here, they're still under your user account. And I open that up and we can see all the different things that are in my user account. And I'm probably going to want to blur some of that just so that personally identifying information isn't showing. Um, but if you don't want to see all that, you don't want to see all of these different things that are hidden from you. Most of them are hidden for a good reason. You don't necessarily want to accidentally delete your bin file. You don't want to necessarily accidentally delete your, like there's a lot of files in here that, if you don't know what you're doing, it's best not to touch them. So I'm going to do Command Shift period again, and that hides everything and puts it back into the normal view. So, those are some things to know about navigating through your hard drive on a Mac, is that Apple likes to hide things from you, and they do it with your best interest in mind. Um, so when I'm taking a look at, say, for instance, my documents folder, uh, my documents folder has some different options available to me than the recents folder does. The recents folder has name, kind, date last open. My documents folder has name, size, kind, and date added. And if I want to add any other things, I can just go and right click anywhere on that bar, and then it gives me these different options that are available. So like if I wanted date created as an option, now I can see date created and I can sort that so that it's right next to date added. I'm just dragging and dropping, and it uh, just snaps into the next slot. Um, every divider, you can go ahead and change. Uh, so now as I've made this column smaller, it reduces the information down to just the numerical date. And then when I expand that out, it gives me um, the actual month name and the time. And it does that, intelligently as you make that bigger. It'll do the same thing for kind here. It'll shorten things down, and as you drag across, it expands those words out so that you can understand what those are. But in the smaller case, it usually does what it needs to do to shorten it down to just that file extension. So PDF document is shortened to PDF. DocX, um, well, that isn't handled as nicely. But HTML is HTML, and then when I expand that out, it's HTML document. QuickTime Movie gets changed to just movie. Um, Zip file gets changed to zip. Uh, you know, just little niceties. If I need to remove any of these things, say I don't need to know what kind it is because I can see from the icon over here what kind it is, then that's fine. I can just uncheck that or recheck that as I need to. Same thing for getting rid of the state created. But if I want to sort by any of these things, I can just click on them and it'll resort based off of the type that I have chosen. And if I click it again, it reverses the order. So if I sort by name, it's going to sort all the files and names, the files and file names alphabetically. If I sort by size, it'll sort by size. If I sort by kind, it'll sort by kind. And, I can just flip the order by clicking on it again. So that's the basics of how to view all the different things that are within your various folders. If you need to change the way that a folder is displaying things, They've given you a little panel at the top here. Right now I've got this folder set to icons mode, but I can change it to list mode with details. I can change it to this accordion view. I don't remember what they call it. Columns, the columns view, which allows you to sort of see the file structure a little bit more easily. So like right in here, I can go to more movies, and then I can go to Final Cut Backups, Untitled, and then I see the list of my backups for this Untitled project. And I go back out here and I can see, okay, under motion templates, effects, Pixel Film Studios Pro ASCII effect template, and I can just keep on going through. And at any point, I can go back out here and say, okay, now I need to look at this folder. Now I need to look at this folder. Um, you know, it lets you take a look at the structure a little bit more easily, I suppose. And then there's one of the newer additions that they made for this was the gallery view. If I go into my home directory and I pick the gallery view, now I can go ahead and take a look at things like the back to school drawing that I did, and I can, if I've got a text file, this document was created as an example for use while creating my video on Finder. But if I just need something like this, I can go into the icons view, and to me, that's like kind of my default. It's going to be either icons or list, depending on what I'm trying to do. So now that we've sort of got our bearings on how to do this, let's go ahead and create a folder. So to create a new folder, all you do is you right-click in some empty space in that folder and click New Folder. And that can be a little bit tougher to do in the list view. So if I right-click somewhere in the list view, it's going to give me the context menu for any of these icons that I click, or any of these list items. So what do you do here? So if you're in list view, then you're probably going to want to know how to use the keyboard shortcut for creating a new folder. And what you do to create a new folder on the keyboard is you hold down Command and Shift and the letter N. And that's going to create a new folder for you. So we're going to call this one Video Demonstration. I hit Enter and it has renamed that file folder for me. And when I go into this view, it's present here as well, Video Demonstration. So now that I've created my folder, I can start to move things into it. So for instance, I've got the example document, and I want to click and drag that and move it into the video demonstration folder. Ignore the little thing that popped up here. That's an add-on that I installed. It just does that. If I want to make a copy of a file and put that in that folder, I'm going to click and drag, and then I'm going to hold down the Option button. And when I hold down the Option button, I get that green plus. And what that's doing is that's telling me that I'm making a copy of this file, and I'm not just moving the original, which is what happens if I'm not holding down that Option button. So I'll hold down Option, and I'll click and drag it. And when I hover over the file folder, it blinks a couple of times and takes me into the folder that I want to drop it into. So now if I let go of the mouse button, it's going to create a copy of that file. So that file is present here, and then another copy of it is present here. And that's important if you want multiple versions of the same file. So now that I've created this copy, now I've realized that I don't need it anymore. So I'm going to have to delete this file. And deleting this file, you would think that you would just be able to hit the delete button. But if I hit the delete button, it's just going to say, no, you can't do that. Same thing if I do that on this example document. I'm tapping the delete button and it's saying no. What you actually have to do is you have to hold down Command, and then you can hit the delete button. And that's going to send that to the trash. And the trash is another folder where it just holds onto these files for a little bit while you make up your mind whether or not you actually want to get rid of it. So if I've got this in the trash, as long as it's in the trash, I can recover it. But it's one click away from being destroyed forever. So it's very important, and I've seen people do this before. They put their important documents in the trash folder, or they put it in the recycle bin on a Windows PC. And my question for anybody who does that is, do you store your lunch in the garbage can? Because obviously you don't want to get rid of your lunch, so why would you keep it in the garbage can? You know, the trash folder and the recycle bin folders on Windows are the same sort of thing, where, it's basically the one step in between taking your trash can from your desk and bringing it out to the dumpster, and in this case, it's a lot less work than bringing it out to the dumpster because all I have to do is click empty and then click on this empty trash button. It even warns me. It says, once you've done this, you can't go back. So I hit empty trash. Now that file is gone. The other way of moving something to the trash can is either dragging and dropping it in the trash or right-clicking it and clicking move to trash. Either way is going to send it to the trash can. And now that it's in there, if I right-click on the trash can on the dock as well, I get the option to empty the trash. Once again, it's going to say, are you sure you want to do this? Yes. Now the trash is emptied. But I've still got that folder that I've made. So to get rid of that folder, I'll just go ahead and right-click on it and move it to trash, or I can click and drag it into the trash. Then I'll just empty the trash, click empty trash, it's gone. So sometimes you'll have a folder that has a bunch of stuff in it. Let's go ahead and take a look in here. Let's go ahead and say that we've got a whole bunch of stuff here that's just sort of strewn around. I wasn't very careful with where I was putting these. If I right click somewhere in the blank space in here, there's this option that says clean up. So I'm going to go ahead and click clean up. Now what that's doing is it's snapping all of these these files to a grid. And if I go to clean up by and go to like clean up by name or clean up by date created, now it'll sort those things. So it makes these folders a lot nicer to look at. So that's clean up by, and then pick a criteria that it's going to sort against. You don't have to worry about that when you're in list view. You don't have to worry about it when you're in columns view. It's just in this icons view. If you're using icons view, sometimes, and Mac lets you do things like this, which, yeah, I can make logical groupings of files and it can work. But at the same time, if I'm looking for a specific file and I've got a whole bunch of them stacked on top of each other, sometimes it's just really nice to just say, okay, I can't do this anymore. Clean it up by name. And then it fans it out and snaps them to a grid. No, the better way to organize files with a logical grouping is to use the tag system. And so how that works is, say I've got these two files here, and I'm just holding down Command while I'm clicking on different files. If I clicked on different files without holding down Command, it would only let me select one at a time. So if I've got these three files here that are related, I can go over here to this tags menu and give them a color. So these three are related to each other. I'm going to give them the color red. Whoops, did that wrong. It's actually not going over here. It's right-clicking on them and then click Add Red. Now what that's going to allow me to do is when I need to sort these items again, I can do cleanup by tags. And now it'll put the red tags together, it'll put the green tags together, Let's go ahead and tag these green. And now when I sort these files, it's going to be sorted out by color. Likewise, if I apply a tag to something and I click on this tags thing right here, it'll show me all of the different things that have this tag applied to them. So in this case, I've got a few different files that have been given a few different types of tag. I don't have anything in purple, which is very unlike me. Uh, and then once you're done taking a look at that view, you can uh, go back into the folder that you were looking at. So in this case, it was Excel files. There it is. And you can see all these different files together. And once you're done looking at them by your logical groupings, you can click Clean Up by Name, and now it's back to the way it was. So tagging files can make it a lot more convenient for you to look at related files rather than having uh, one of these situations where you've just got different files stacked on top of one another. I mean, it is entirely up to you whether or not this is the more convenient way of dealing with these files, dealing with your own files, but I think that it looks a lot better to have things in that grid layout. And if I do that, sort them by tags, now I don't have to worry about it. I can just see, okay, these three files are related to each other, these two files are related to each other. So now it comes down to, say I have a file that I'm looking for, but I don't remember where I put it. So I'm going to find a file here. I'm going to find a file in my downloads folder. Okay, we're going to look for Easter. So if I'm back in any arbitrary folder, in this case I'm in my user folder, if I go up to this top right search bar here, I can type in the name of the file as much as I remember, and it's going to try and find all the different things that have Easter in it. And so now I can see, okay, I've got Easter.png, Easter.kra, and then I've got a whole bunch of calendar notices and email. Using this search can be a very powerful tool, but you're always going to get a lot more than you bargained for. So it's best to remember what kind of file you're looking for. So in this case, I'm looking for a .png. Now it's going to show me all the different .png files, and then I can select right in here. It says kinds PNG image. If I click on that, now it's going to make sure that it's only PNG files and it's not showing me emails and it's not showing me all of that. There was a project that had to do with the party parrots. It took the touch bar and put a whole bunch of party parrots on it. So that's why I have so many of those. But, and there's a lot more than just what I've put in here. It's got basically every PNG image on my device, which is a lot. So to narrow that down, once I've got the type put in here, I can just start typing in what I can remember from the name. And just like that, now I have Easter showing up, even though I didn't type the whole thing out. So as long as you can remember what the type of file you're looking for is, as well as part of the name, chances are you'll do a pretty good job of finding where it is. However, you can also restrict it down to specific folders. So I was in here. If I remember that what I'm looking for was in one of my iCloud Drive areas, then now I put it in there and I need type. Kind PNG image. Now I've sorted it down. It found it a lot easier. Okay, so if I'm in a folder and I'm looking for something specific, You'll see that it starts with search this Mac. If I click on search in downloads, it'll narrow it down to things that just have uh, Easter in the name, or somewhere on the document, I presume, because it shouldn't be in any of those documents there. But if you don't want to search from within Finder, what you can do is you can hold down Command and Space, and that'll open up Spotlight Search. And Spotlight Search is probably even more useful than what you come across in the Finder search, because if I say, for instance, were to type in Easter, now it's going to sort down to uh, there's a Google web search or a web search of some sort, mail messages, events, and then images. So all I have to do is look for the type of thing that I'm looking for, and it'll have that under there. And if I can use this to also open up programs very easily. Sometimes I don't want to go in and find out where did I put my calculator app. I don't want to search through the list. I just hit Command Space and then I start typing, and it gets me that app. I just hit enter and it opens up the calculator. So these are little time savers that not everybody necessarily learns about right away. So just thought I'd point that out. So anyway, I hope that this video was useful, and if you have any trouble, go ahead and email me or email anybody at the tech department, and we'll try and get you pointed in the right direction.